Cool. So you're all live now. And I'm not going to edit this. So, you know, whatever you say is going on the recording.
Is that a threat, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Golly. So, you know, this is a potpourri. We're going to do the Figures Tell a Story in January. And then we're going to do a introductory meet on a Saturday about DC locomotives, because there's a few guys that are interested in that, Paul being one, and of course Roger, I believe, and I think there's one or two other guys that would be interested in that. So George, we haven't seen you in a while. What have you been up to?
Honestly, playing hockey. I'm on the ice about 4 times a week.
Wow, good exercise.
Yeah, that's all you're doing.
So I haven't hardly worked on anything. I've got, I think 3 of those Bachmann passenger cars that have new roofs on them, the 3D Shapeways printed roofs, and the grab irons all shaved off and ready for me to drill the holes and bend them. I just haven't had time or energy to do it.
Right. Yep, I get it. You know, one of the things that's been coming up in a couple of calls I've had with different guys, because they're looking for HO scale period side frames, and Bitter Creek is not making them anymore. BTS, his supplier is not making them. And I'm not sure, other than Shapeways, of course, they're plastic, where you could get side frames for passenger cars or freight cars. So if anybody comes across anything around that, let us know. There's at least 3 guys I know of that are trying to find those.
Well, how accurate are the Bachmann ones?
I don't know.
I mean, I would imagine they're probably crap, but they're close and they're usable.
Do they sell just the trucks?
Sure, I would imagine so.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'll have to
I
look
don't
into
know.
that.
I just thought about it.
I had a top of a steam dome fall off from one of my N-gauge Bachmanns, and I wrote to their parts department, and they came back and said, oh yeah, here's the part number. And I went online and I looked up the part number just before I bought it because it seemed a little high, and it was the entire locomotive body. So they may play some games with you. You have to see.
Actually, from their standpoint, probably the body is
One part.
yeah.
Only it's not, because the top of my steam dome fell off. So
I know, but I'm saying from their standpoint, they're
Right.
Keeping those little things like the domes would be
Not worth
economic. Right. The same. I ordered parts from my Atlas N scale and got the whole boiler assembly.
Right.
Right. Wouldn't be surprised. So
Yeah, which is
you might
fine.
have to buy a pair. Who knows?
Given that Shapeways is, because we know from Jerry's steam chests and from his steam domes for the Lieutenant General Grant, that Shapeways can print in brass. You can 3D print in brass. I was wondering if somebody ought to talk to Eric Cox and see if he's looked into doing his frames in brass.
Yeah,
I
you know
don't
what?
know if it's
I'll
feasible or not.
take that up.
It's interesting that the issue that you can get is the way they are now, they're a little bit flexible. I'm not sure how rigid they would be or bendable they would be in brass.
Possibly not so bendable, because the brass isn't it sintered or powdered or something? Yeah, and it's a difficult process.
Why would you want them in brass?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
For the
We
weight.
had those ones from SMR. He was doing those O-scale ones. They're perfect. I've got 2 of his O-scale cars that I built, and they use those lost wax brass frames. They're really very nice. They're definitely heavier, and the ones that BTS was selling also were brass.
Right.
Well,
Bernie
the point
has
I'm making,
really-
if you've got 20 or 30 pairs of Eric Cox's trucks that I've been running on my layout for several years now, no problems.
With the
I-
plastic
I
one.
wouldn't
I
pay
have
the
not
extra
had-
to get them in brass.
I haven't had any trouble with Cox's printed trucks. I even had one break and I super glued it back together again. And
Yeah,
it's,
that happened too.
And-
Don,
and,
do you,
after that, I
um,
started flooding them with super glue.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're stronger after they're glued.
Right, that much better with the super glue. But those, I haven't really had one give me any trouble.
I flood his trucks with really super thin CA, starting with each where
Yeah.
the point of the axle goes in. Before they're still bendable enough I can get them in there, and that,
Hmm.
as you said, it makes a wrist stronger than the plastic by itself.
The FUD.
That's because the plastic
I
is
use
porous.
steel trucks. I use steel wheels with his Fox Valley or KD steel wheels and N scale because I like a little bit of the weight.
Yeah.
Of tracks. And that's what I'm saying. I haven't had any trouble with the steel wheels in the printed trucks.
Yeah, I
Ditto
use the
here.
Intermountain wheels on mine and never had any problem either.
John,
I've got less trouble with the 3D printed trucks than I do with Better Creek trucks.
really?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. All right. And
Eric,
then,
Eric does offer a range of different truck styles too.
Oh.
And Jerry's got some, and I think
Right.
there's some other people on Shapeways who are offering neutral trucks.
So do you
But
guys,
I'm happiest with Eric's.
do you guys typically use Intermountain wheels? Yeah.
Used to. Which is the one that went out of business a couple of years ago?
Reeboks?
Reeboks, yeah.
$3. That's what I use.
I had a lot of them.
Yeah, me too. But from what I hear, unless somebody knows different, it seems like Intermountain would be the choice, the preferred choice. Yeah, okay.
I use Fox Valley.
Fox Valley. And they do HO too?
I think so. And I'll use microtrains. I keep saying KD, but that's Smith's wife's last name was of the KD family. I'm talking the N scale
Oh,
part
right,
of it.
right.
And they also do a very nice steel wheel.
Right.
And also Eric, I think is at least an N scale is very careful to tell you his axle spacing because there are two different axle spacings common in N scale.
Hmm.
And he uses the one that's the micro trains spacing.
Got it. For those of you that are just joining, there's no agenda for tonight. We're just talking ad lib and improv. So if there's something you want to ask or share, feel free.
Well, I use branch line wheel sets because a few years ago I bought this 300-piece package and it's lasted me for a good long time. I would be interested in some of Eric's trucks in brass as tender trucks. I think that the 3D printed ones might not be so rugged. And speaking of those brass parts from Shapeways, I've got some of the Lieutenant General Grant parts and some others from other vendors there. And it's my understanding that they are not actually printed in brass. They are printed in a wax and then investment cast.
Yep.
So that they're not, the brass doesn't look like it has a sintered texture at all. I mean, I've drilled and filed some of them and it doesn't seem like sintered to me. It just seems like a brass casting.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my
That was my
understanding.
understanding as well.
Okay.
So that's an advantage?
You might be stronger that way.
What's that, John?
I said they might be stronger that way than
Okay.
sintered printed.
If you're running like some of the BTS kits, we'd put more weight down there at the track for them because they run pretty light when you get them built.
Hmm.
About 30 gram range, I think, 35 grams.
Yeah.
But the way the cost of things on Shapeways has skyrocketed, I don't know if there are many people who want to spend that much as you'd have to spend to get brass trucks.
Yeah, that's something I was just about to go into Shapeways to see what the differential would be, because especially in
Okay.
HO, in N-Gauge, having it printed in brass isn't going to make that much difference in price. But in HO, you're starting to have a materials difference.
Right.
So I'm waiting for Shapeways price to go up so high and the cost of the machines to actually come down. Somewhere they're going to meet in the middle, and I'm just going to go and get my own machine at one point.
And it'll be 5 generations better than what they have now.
Right. Right.
Got to be patient and live long enough.
Cheers to
yourself.
that.
I think the price point is when the machines that are out there for personal purchase are down around $200 or $300 and have the top technology or good technology in them. That's probably the point you're talking about, John.
Right, right.
You can buy $300 machines from Micromark now, but I got a feeling they're not nearly as good as the printed stuff you can get off Shapeways.
That's what I'm still afraid of. But given the rate of progress, I'm sure that is going to improve eventually.
A couple of years ago, I bought a $250 machine, and I have had no problems. For those of you who have worked with Jordan kits, I designed and built some underframes, which are about as delicate as those, and I've had no problem printing them.
Wow.
So the little ones work well. The big kicker is you have to be able to draw in 3D.
Oh, right.
It's just a harder skill to master unless you've done some CAD work at some point.
Which brand 3D machine do you have, Don?
It's an Elegoo Mars.
Yeah. Man, that's
I have to look that up.
At the time I got it, it was rated highest. Of course, that changes year by year, month by month. But
how long have you had yours?
A couple of years.
Couple of years. Oh, it's not okay.
How long did it take you to master CAD?
I did it all my life.
Oh,
Work, and so it was not very hard. It was just going from 2D work to 3D work.
yeah, I gotcha.
And there's a little bit of a learning curve, but not that much. I'm still learning though. I don't do that much 3D work. But
what types of things have you printed other than the undercarriages?
well, that undercarriage process was part of a project where I was making Studebaker street sprinkler wagons.
Okay.
And they're about that long. And it came out well. I just printed some corbels, roof brackets actually, rather than corbels, for a structure I have in mind. I could laser cut the rest of it, but the roof brackets had to be printed, so I did some of those. And now I got to get busy and do the rest of the building.
Mm-hmm.
But just that, an odd window or door or something like that. Nothing real fancy.
What's the average amount of time does it take to print something?
It depends on how high it is.
I mean, the height-
Because the way these things work, it goes layer by layer.
right,
So if it's a very flat thing, it doesn't take very long at all. If it's a
Model of the Eiffel Tower, it'd take longer.
yeah, exactly. And I would say per layer, it's about 1 to 1.5 minutes. And there's usually 200 or 300 layers in an average piece.
mhm,
So it's the kind of thing it, I don't think I've had anything under 45 minutes.
mhm.
But some of them take a couple hours and, some you can put it on and go to bed and check it out in the morning.
Right,
Just depends on your scale and what you're doing.
right.
That would be a godsend when it comes to like windows. Because I mean, there's like the San Juan models, Grant Line, and some of the metal casting windows that were out there, but something like that, you could actually take the measurements from the actual building and duplicate the window.
Yes.
Well, I think what actually I think works better is laser cutting it. I just put together a building that I had laser cut, and the window muntins were 20 thousandths wide, actually about 22 thousandths. And they were all very crisp, not a problem with any of them. So that's the way I would go with the windows. And I printed them in 3 pieces, a frame, an upper sash, and a lower sash.
Right.
And so I can, look at, raise the windows if I want to.
Don, would 3D printing have any advantage over laser cutting in a smaller scale like N gauge, do you think, or would they pretty much be the same?
Well, I think that I'm trying to remember, it's 10 or 20 thousandths that Shapeways says the smallest cross section they could print.
Mhm.
And so it's getting down to where it's pretty close.
Okay.
If you'd like to see a picture of the windows I did, I can show you one.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
How much
Go ahead.
do you charge for windows?
You had to
New
ask.
windows.
Now you can see this is an HO scale project,
Right.
Nice. Yep.
and I cut out the railings for the top in one
Mhm.
piece, and the gadgetry below the top.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, and all the cross hatching you see on the bar doors,
Wow.
everything, it was all laser cut. So I'm very pleased.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some of those period windows where there's like 12, 12 over 12 or 18 over 18 that
Mhm.
is not exactly available in the current commercial market.
Well, the things are, if you have the muntins I drew are a scale 2 inches wide, which is, like that. Now that's a lot bigger than a real window.
Hmm.
But I think you'll find that like a Grant line is a bit bigger too. But I think I like the result anyway.
Right.
So,
Right.
and you might be able to get them cheaper with, not cheaper, but smaller with Grant line or Kitschy.
Right.
I was, when I first started scratch building, the window thing, because a lot of the windows on this historic houses in my area, the
Mhm.
colonial area, they would be 6 over 6, but they would be a smaller sized window than anything that was commercially available. The closest was the 4 over 4 the Grant Line produced, and hasn't gotten much better in over these decades.
Well, I think working in a small scale, working in O gauge, you could probably get in closer to scale size, but most of us work in O gauge or HO gauge. At least I do. And
Yeah.
so you got to take some, accept some compromise, I guess the best way to put it.
Got to take some liberties so somebody can actually see what your work is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You get the mullions and so forth so small that basically they just kind of fade into the window. You can't see them.
Well, that's
like
like
the old Revell plastic windows that had the muntins painted on them.
Right.
No, that's not a bad idea. I've done those. I've made my own, printed my own windows on transparent film in my laser printer, and then go over them with thin strips of chart tape.
Yeah.
I've used, for N-scale, I've used white ink.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh.
actually probably about a scale thickness. That's about an inch thick.
I have too, Joel. The same thing, just one of those white from the art store.
Yeah.
I've used that pinstripe tape to make the mullions on windows.
Yeah,
That's
that's,
it.
that's
That-
chart tape, same stuff.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was the first one I did was very frustrating because it was sticking where I didn't want it to stick. Like, and you get one side lined up and it's like, damn, gotta redo it. But it served the purpose. It was pretty good. Yeah.
So
So
it get easier after the 10,000th window.
no, the second window went a lot smoother. I only needed one window to get me pissed off. It was fine. So Ron, have you not that I want to get into any detail, but I was just curious how you're coming with your bench work.
I've got a little bit more of the backdrop up. I've gotten distracted by a couple of other projects. I just finished a 20-foot by 10-foot open book case.
No, wow.
Took up some time, and then my grandson came down to visit, so we built his little 4x4 layout.
Nice.
So he helped me put that together. So it's really funny because I think one of the teachers where he goes to school was telling him that he had a railroad. And so Matthew made sure that he had the right type of big enough radius curve so that his locomotives could handle it. So this is a 6-year-old telling his teacher, questioning his teacher on what were the radius curves on his railroad.
That's great.
It's like his mom's like, where did he get that? And it's like, well, we were talking about that as we were laying track. That's got to have a big enough radius for the curve so that your locomotives will go around the curve.
That's good. We need the youth. That's good.
Start them early.
So yeah, and I just I'm working with an engineer right now to do some engineered drawings of the roundhouse. Because I have no idea how you would, I'm not an engineer. So he just sent me back some sketches today of, he took this picture and sort of laid out on the picture where he would estimate things are going to be and how they would be structured and how to build a model of it. So
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
I think what I've decided to do is to put a roof on half of it, and then not roof one half of it, but have all the detailed structure. And so that's why I think we're heading right at this point in time. So, but that was
Great
rather,
idea.
he just said that to me today. Some sketches that he was started to do and said,
Yeah, architecturally, the roof structure is probably the most interesting detail on the building.
Yep.
Yeah, so that'd be great. I like that
So
idea.
it'll be interesting to see, because originally I said Martinsburg to him, and so he sent me back a picture of the one that's there now, and I had to correct him. I'd say, no, that was built after the war. I need something that was built in 1857. Here's the picture. He said, that's a pretty interesting structure. So that ought to be, and I think what we'll end up doing is once we get the the frames, based on what I saw today in the diagram, is we'll probably laser cut them out of,
Oh, right.
out of a plywood. So the frames will narrow as we go back towards so it'll go at an angle until it gets back to where the frames go up for the round section. So I think I'll just laser cut those, set it up, and use plywood.
So you have a laser printer too?
I have access to a laser printer.
Oh,
Hey, Ron.
There are a couple places here in Ann Arbor called MakerWorks. And so they have they have large shop equipment for woodworking, and they have a large metal shop, and then they have fabricating laser printers. And in fact, they actually bought some of the printers that Jerry had from his company, his son had from his company, that they were replacing. So we shipped them over here from Grand Rapids to Ann Arbor, and they bought them.
cool.
They owe me.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron, and that image behind you on the right, are those skylights over some of the bays in the roof?
No, those are, I'm trying to figure out what those are. Those are actually pieces of wood. They're wood planks that just
Okay.
extend down over the roof. We haven't quite determined what those are or what their purpose was.
Yeah, I'm trying to indicate to you where I'm looking. It's not at the ridge roofs, but it's coming down from the
Yeah,
side.
they're coming down from the sides. Those look like just planks that have been
Okay.
that are, and I don't know whether it's because they walked them. I mean, they had to get up on the roof. That's what I'm thinking, is they spent time up on the roof, so they just permanently left planking up there.
Way they're all underneath that top cap
Yeah,
is. And looks like right over your head, there's two, and then several of the other roofs, they just have one.
yep. Which is similar, if you look down when people go in and roof, you'll see them lay pieces like that, so then they can use those, and they use those to walk on, and then they'll run a piece across it, so then they can stand as they put roofing on it. So I don't know at what stage this was in construction. They may have been doing work on the roof, for all I know, at the time they took the photo.
Right. Cool. Phil,
I made
what do you
a little bit of progress, got some more of the backdrop up.
Yeah, I'm thinking we'll do a layout update sometime late February or March for like you and DC and maybe Roger and whoever else has got something going on. Charlie, for sure.
I got all my grades done, so now I'm free until January.
Yay.
It's one of the privileges of being a faculty member. We do get holiday breaks. So tomorrow's already set up. We're going to do some more spackling of screw heads and seams.
Great.
Nice. All right. So you were going to ask me what I'm working on, right? So,
Yeah.
Well, basically, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a new bolster to replace the Trout Creek engineering or Trout Creek models 4-foot 6-inch HO scale truck, and it's got the brakes. It's got the brakes on it.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
back it up a little?
Yeah. So I had this guy.
Nice.
I had this guy that would work 3D print these for me. So I designed it up, and he 3D printed me a whole dish of them. And I'm going to try casting more of them. It doesn't have the side frames on it. I still use the original side frames, but it's a little wider so the wheels don't bind, and it's got the brakes. So that's
Nice detail.
nice. And then I got the braked trucks for a different project that I did from Shapeways. I got them from Shapeways for a different project, and I'm like, you know what? I can't stand not having the brakes on there anymore. It's kind of funny. They really show up, So
Right.
So you guys were talking about 3D printing earlier. I actually don't get much stuff from Shapeways. I found a site called Craft Cloud, and they have been consistently running about half the price of Shapeways for everything that I've had run. So
wow.
Yeah.
And obviously you like the quality of their work.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. So they did those cores, the boxcar cores that I was doing earlier this year. I had all those done through Craft Cloud, and they came out pretty much perfect. So
This is similar to like what an Eric or a Jerry might do. They do the drawing, you send it to them, and they print it out and they put it on their site for sale.
no, it's private. They just sell you copies of your own design. Right. So you can go and upload your design, and they'll they just sell it to you. They don't have like a store or anything that I can find.
Wow.
They just quote you a price for your own design.
Okay.
They'll take your own STD files.
STL. Yeah.
Good one, John.
You don't want an STD file.
What's an STD file?
Oh, you're showing your age.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Showing through.
So speaking of 3D printed sources and trucks,
Good save,
I-
John.
Hmm?
Good save.
I'm changing the subject.
Yeah.
It was time. I've had a lot of trouble with trucks from Shapeways. I've broken side frames just inserting the wheel sets, and I've put the ACC on them. That doesn't seem to help. But there's another truck supplier called Zenith Model Works, and they sell through 3dptrain.com. Most of their trucks are later 19th century trucks. If you can really see that.
Oh, yeah.
Here's an Archbird truck with outside brakes.
Wow.
And what's interesting about these, I think, is that the material that is rather flexible. It's got some give to it. It's not like that really brittle stuff that Shapeways sellers use. The trucks roll well. The designer recommends KD wheel sets, and with the KD wheel sets, these are Code 88 wheel sets. They look nice and they roll very well. See, most of what they have now is late 19th century, turn of the century, but the designer has got a bunch more of them in the works, and one of them's a New England continuous frame truck. And that's kind of a bolted up side frame out of strap, I don't know, iron or probably iron. I think they predate the Civil War. They're very spindly and flexible looking, and well, rickety looking actually. I'm sure that in John White's freight car book, there's drawings of them. So that might be something that's of interest. But so far I'm impressed with these trucks. And for all the, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 styles he has now, they're $4 a pair.
Wow.
That's really reasonable. I mean, obviously that's without wheel sets, but they seem good. I haven't done operating with them to speak of yet, but so far I'm pretty favorably impressed with them.
That's Zenith?
Zenith, right? And you Zenith Model Works, but they sell through 3dptrain.com, and there are other vendors that sell through them as well. So
Okay.
I don't know, their material doesn't seem grainy and gritty like Shapeways sometimes does. It does have a bit of flexibility, and on angled surfaces, like on the top arch bar, I don't see signs of stair stepping like you sometimes do with some of Shapeways stuff. So I said, so far I'm pretty impressed with these. Might be worth looking into.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, John, if you could maybe, do a message thread on our site with the information that you just gave us regarding Zenith and
Could I paste a link into that? I haven't done messages on Zooms.
Okay, well, no, I mean, on the
Oh,
site.
I'm
not
sorry.
right
Yeah.
now.
Duh. Yeah, I can. Yes, I sure can.
Great.
Thank you. That'd be great.
And Phil, the company you said was Craft Cloud?
Yeah. Yep, craftcloud3d.com. But,
Cool.
you know, in general, just, you know, if you're going to send something to Shapeways, before you send it to Shapeways, just, you know, Google 3D printing services, and, you know, I'm sure there's more than two. So, you know, there
Oh,
might
right.
be better prices elsewhere.
Got it. And so, you know, with these 3D printings, is there a particular material that you want to make sure they're printing with, or for the most part, whatever they're doing is probably going to be pretty good?
You know, I ended up just printing with, like, it wasn't the cheapest. I gotta look around here and see what they had. But it basically, I went with the one that guaranteed the best surface finish without costing a fortune. So
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Good.
We were talking about how fine a 3D printer could do. I've got a picture here of one of the wagon underframe and so on that I was working on.
Oh, great.
I'd like to show you here. There's the finished product.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Oh,
Yeah.
You did the wheels too?
No, the wheels are Jordan's wheels.
Okay.
So I had some of those, so why try printing?
But the undercarriage and the body is 3D?
Yeah, this is the component parts.
Wow. Nice.
wow.
These are 1-inch squares. 1 inch or ½ inch? It must be ½ inch
yeah.
squares. On the pad there, so you can get an idea. And the underframe, you know, in the back here was all printed in one piece, just as you see it. So you can do a lot with these home machines.
Hey, you're not kidding.
The tank is printed too?
Yeah, the tank is printed in 2 pieces. The big part of the tank and then the seat is separate.
Mhm.
I don't know that I needed to do it that way, but that's the way I did it. So
So Don, did you have a lot of calibration or setup on that machine
no,
when you first bought it? It was
No.
basically just out of the box and you could print this kind of thing?
yeah, you've got to align the plate. There's a plate that moves up and down
Right.
on which the printing is built, and you have to make sure that's perfectly flat with the machine. But that's, you know, that's a 10-minute job to do that, and then I just started printing.
All right.
Does it run, do you have an app? You run it from your computer, kind of like you would your normal printer, but what you're doing is sending it, and I'll put it in quotes, an STL file?
No, what you do is you make an STL file, whatever programs you use.
AutoCAD or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and then you put it on a memory stick, and
Mhm.
there's a USB port in the back of the printer, and you stick it in there, and then when you turn it on, it recognizes the excuse me, it recognizes the file. You don't go direct from an STL file. You have to slice it first.
Oh, okay.
And I use Chittobox Slicer, and it puts it out in a format that my printer will read. So you just put it in there, it looks up, it's, you know, sees all the drawings you might have, and you select the one you want. Let's go.
Well, there's a finite size then for the slices or the levels as it builds up?
Yeah, you can select that. Of course, the more slices you have, the longer it takes.
Right.
But you know, that's kind of up to you. They have a default size, then you can change that.
Okay, thanks.
DC, you said that Bitter Creek is not going to try to I thought you said they were gonna redevelop their trucks at one point, but they're not gonna go down that road anymore?
People have more updated information than I have. The last I knew, I talked to him, but it'd been, I can't remember ago, maybe it was last year sometime. And
I got
at that time, there was some other things going on that he was doing
Yeah.
first, and the trucks were on hold for now.
Yeah, I talked to Rhett Tyler last week, or earlier this week, about that. And he said the guy that runs it, Jeff, since August, Jeff's been on hold. For a while there, he was just having difficulty getting decent side frames. And then what started out as fun and a hobby became too stressful. And I suppose there were folks that weren't really happy, and he was getting more complaints than he really could tolerate. And I think he just decided to quit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is sad. But hey, we still have Shapeways, and now we have a couple of other possibilities. But those metal trucks are nice. I just like them for the weight.
Well, his website's still online. He hasn't indicated anything except the trucks are on hold.
Yeah,
Everything else-
according to Rhett, though, they're not coming back. He was talking to Jeff, and Jeff is, matter of fact, I guess he talked to him about a month ago, and he's done. But Rhett was going to call him either this week or next week just to see if he can offer a word of encouragement to get him back into it. So
Mhm.
right now, I like to say it's just on hold versus it's ended.
Well, there's still a lot of other parts on there, so.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So what else? All right. So are we done?
I'm good.
Cool. Good. All right, my friends. Good to see you all. I wasn't expecting this many folks. This is great. It's good to see you, and best wishes for the holidays. Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you be doing. Nothing, drinking. Hey, enjoy yourself. Have a relaxing, fun time with your families.
You as well.
Tom.
Yeah.
You as well.
Yeah.
Cheers, fellas.
Posted.
Happy holidays.
See you next year.
Yep.
All right.
Cheers to all.
There's my drink. Salud.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
All right.